Welcome to the Conscious Pivot Podcast with international speaker, business mentor, best-selling author of Pivot, and your host, Adam Markell. The Conscious Pivot shares the stories and wisdom of people who have successfully reinvented some area of their business and personal life. You'll gain powerful insights into how you can fully embrace new opportunities, increase your performance, and master the art and science of innovation and resilience. So please join Adam as he guides you on your conscious pivot.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Pivot Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Markell, and I feel so blessed in this moment to be here, to be able to breathe this air. Just to be living. I was going, what am I feeling in this moment right now? So grateful for. And I had a lot of things happening in my mind just then for a second, and yet they could all be described as just being alive and breathing and present in this moment. And that is such a blessing. And I don't know about you, but I take that blessing for granted sometimes. I don't know, maybe I'm alone in that, but I don't want to take it for granted in this moment. And today's an absolutely glorious day. It's hot, like Africa hot here in San Diego. So I don't know when it's been this hot before. I just jumped in the pool a few minutes ago to cool off and get my temperature back to normal and to be really energized, because today's show is going to be spectacular, like they all are. But today I'm particularly excited about because I've got this incredible, amazing business owner, this beautiful woman, this divine being that I get to chat with. And you guys get to be part of that chat, maybe not sort of interjecting your questions and things, but you get to participate in it. You get to absorb it, try this information on and see what works and what doesn't. And of course, you always get to leave comments and send us your thoughts and feelings, which we so appreciate. So I don't want to waste another moment of the precious time that we get to spend with Allison Maslan. So today I have the honor of introducing this lovely lady, and I'll read a bit of her bio. And then, as you guys know, we'll dig in a little deeper to that as well. So Allison Maslan is the CEO of Allison Maslan International, a global business mentoring company, and is the #1 best-selling author of Blast Off. I absolutely love that title. The surefire success plan to launch your dreams into reality. Who doesn't want to do that every day? Allison's built 10 successful companies starting out at age 19. I was an entrepreneur early in my life too. Her client list has included Ben & Jerry's, Supercuts, Merrill Lynch, and Charlotte Russe. Now she pays it forward, helping ambitious business owners around the world grow high revenue businesses and their passionate life through the Pinnacle Global Network, her private mentoring and mastermind enterprise. Allison's been featured in Success, Fortune, Forbes magazine, as a regular contributor to Entrepreneur magazine, and a featured expert on ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, Fox News across the U.S. Allison's journey is highlighted in a new documentary called Inspired by 11. Wow, that's a mouthful. And Allison, I'll just say I'm happy to have you, joyful that you're with us. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Adam. Thank you for having me. This is going to be fun.
Oh my gosh. Now that is a lot, and you've done a lot. I know when people read my bio or make introductions, I always think to myself, who on the team wrote that? And why is that so flippin' long? And I'm thinking to myself, no wonder I have all these like wrinkles. You don't have wrinkles, but I do. I'm like, now I know why I have all these wrinkles in my face. It's so many things. But Allison, what's not written in that bio that you would love for people to know about you?
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel so blessed. Like we were talking earlier about what are you thankful for, and obviously feeling alive and being in the moment. I just came from the gym, and I've been with the same fitness trainer for 20 years. He just kicks my butt. And I always just say, thank you, body. Thank you for like taking such good care of me all these years, because I do have a lot going on. I feel really blessed because I get to do what I love. And I'm on this mission to help others get out of their own way and really live their purpose and share their gifts with the world.
That's beautiful. I'm going to follow that thread for just a second. So you've got a fitness trainer that you've been with for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I want to dig a little bit into that, because you think about it, first of all, to have a relationship with anybody anyone for 20 years.
I know.
I'm really lucky.
The longest male relationship of my life
The
is my
longest.
trainer.
Yeah.
You
All
know?
right. So let's explore that, because I think people for sure would be curious. I know I'm certainly curious. What has led to that kind of a sustainable professional relationship? I'm really blessed. I'm married to my college sweetheart. So we're married 29 years, and I know that road, like any relationship, not easy, worthwhile. Every day I thank God for it. And yet it's not always easy. So to be in a professional relationship for 20 years, there's something there that I think if we are digging into that soil a little bit, people could get something really useful. So
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about it is I have several 20+ year relationships, and I can talk about it later, but I have a trapeze coach for 20 years. Had my accountant for 20 years plus. And I think you just build these relationships with people. I'm a relationship person, and I'm happily married also. But I think you get people that they have your back. And we've supported each other. Marcus, my fitness trainer, when I think about all the life changes I've had over the years since he's been in my life, I was a single mom.
Pivots.
The pivots, yeah, dramatic pivots.
Yeah.
I was a single mom for 12 years, and you come in, it's like whoever you spend time with. If you're going to the hairdresser or whoever, and he gets an earful, he gets to hear. He saw me go through all kinds of wrong relationships, and he'd be like, Allison, please stay away from this guy. So he was like my protector, and my daughter was going through a rough time. He was like, giving me advice for her, and it's really feels like home when you go and you get to spend time around people like that are truly your success team, and they believe in you. And he stretches me further than I care to. I'm on the treadmill, and I'm already huffing and puffing, and it's at 6.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. And he pushes it up and up and up, and I'm yelling at him. I even might say a few curse words, but I he deserves it because I'm in pain. But I'm grateful because he knows I can do it, or he wouldn't push me that hard. And that's what a good coach, a good mentor will do. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really telling, because they're probably, people are pivoting all the time. We find when I was pivoting out of practicing law, which is part of my history, spending 18 years doing that work, and then ultimately writing a book about my journey into something that was a calling from my heart. So instead of having a midlife crisis, I ended up with this crazy midlife calling, and then wrote a book about it and got to travel and train and teach that topic around the world. I found that a lot of people were asking me, well, first of all, they were saying, yes, I'm reinventing some area of my life. I'm pivoting into something new and different. Sometimes they knew what that was. Sometimes that was a bit of a mystery. And I thought to myself, yeah, there's something to this idea that we're constantly evolving and changing, and yet there's some things that remain constant. And relationships, the best relationships in our lives, are those sort of constant things. Those things that are very, can be a big, can be a rock that we can build things upon. It's like a foundational piece. So for you to have a 20-year relationship with your trainer, I think is spectacular, because a lot of the people that we've spoken to and trained thousands of people all over the world have pivoted into coaching. They've pivoted into that space of training other people, or wanting to do sort of, some of the things that they were seeing me do and all that. And so a lot of those people don't have clients for lengths of time. That's what I'm thinking, is people listening to this, watching this right now, are going, I would love to have a client for 20 years. What's this guy Bobby's secret recipe to be able to maintain a great relationship with you for 20 years? And you stated a few. So I heard you say he has your back, that it's like coming home, that he stretches me even to the point where I curse him out, but I know he's got my back. And so I'm grateful for him. Is there anything else you can?
Yeah, absolutely. He does what he says he's going to do. And I think for me, just as an individual and also running my companies, that has been my number one value. If you say you're going to do it, do it. And so he has great integrity, and he's also honest with me. We've had some serious talks. There was a period of time where I was constantly showing up late, and he had to have a serious talk with me about that. And I deserved it. Or when I come in and I'm looking ragged because I'm not getting enough sleep and not taking care of myself, which, business owners can do. And he was very worried about me, sat me down and kind of gave me a lecture, and I needed to hear it. And so, I just have the greatest respect for that honesty. And even to the point where he's raised his prices significantly over the years, if you could imagine, right? Over 20 years. And I just am like, right on, you deserve it, because boy, I would rather pay more and know I have someone like that has my back, that always shows up, that helps me to be my best and gets me on my game, than, trying to save a few bucks here and there.
Wow. How many folks are going, what you just said is what they want their clients to say about them. That's the best review. That's the best endorsement. That's incredible. And that's beautiful. So in any event, how cool for Bobby to have you as a client and to be someone who's showing up the way he is so that you say what you say about him. And I'm sure his business has grown not only from the standpoint of what the market would pay for his services, but you've probably referred him out, and the person he is, he probably doesn't have to spend too much money on marketing or other things to keep his business moving in the right direction, right?
Oh yeah. No, I credit him for so many things. Yeah. Marcus, his name is Marcus. So I want to give him that credit. And
very cool.
But he's, I credit him for helping me get through some rough times in my life. And it's like anything. I mean, I think that you need to have some things in your life that really stretch you to help you see what you're made of. And if you have those people, I'm such a believer in having a coach. And I have been in several areas of my life because I'm always wanting to take it to the next level and just be the best person that I can be, always growing and evolving as a human being.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I think a lot of people look at people who've gotten some success, or at least what the world might define as success, and think, yeah, they don't need a coach anymore. I mean, I was running probably the largest personal development business training company in North America for a number of years. And all that time I had a coach. I have a coach now. We've pivoted several times. I seem to always want to be surrounded by people who I think are smarter than me, that know more than me, or at least can see my blind spots, which I know at this point in my life I cannot see. I think at a younger age I probably thought, yeah, you know what, I'll just look in the mirror. I'll just set up those two-way mirrors. You could see everything somehow. But even with family and other people that are around you can't see your blind spots because of a lot of people around. Like when I was a CEO of Peak Potentials, there's a lot of people who are afraid to tell you what they see or won't share your blind spots for fear that somehow you hold it against them. Your ego would get the better of you. Maybe you fire somebody for being honest or showing radical honesty or what have you. So it is in many ways for a business owner, an entrepreneur, somebody that's the CEO of their own company, it can be a lonely experience because there's not a lot of folks around that will have the guts to tell them what they might not want to hear. Yeah. Well, you said you've been through a lot with Marcus. So maybe let's go back to some pivot time in your life, whether it was in business or in relationship or in some other area where you got to that place where it was a challenge that you didn't even know you'd overcome, but somehow you learned something about yourself and the world, perhaps. What was that like? When was that, and what was that?
So I would say probably the biggest pivot in my life was in my early business career. I was running a full service advertising and PR firm. And I had fallen into that. I had no knowledge, no experience in marketing or advertising. I had not taken one class. But I was doing greeting cards for people, and I was just trying to make an extra few bucks here and there. And I had grown up in an entrepreneurial family, and so there was never my voice saying you can't do this. So people would say, Allison, do you do brochures? Do you do radio? Do you do television? And I go, yeah, absolutely. And then I would walk out of their office and I'd be, oh my God, I have no idea how to do this. So I wasn't afraid to ask for help even back then. And so I would go to the radio station. I'd say, really, can you teach me everything I need to know? Or I would go to the printer and I would be back in the back with the presses and really learning. And so I just kind of flying by the seat of my pants built this company. And we had big clients like Ben and Jerry's and Supercuts, and I was flying all over the country. I was making a lot of money. My daughter was really young then, and you would have looked at me then, Adam, and you would have thought, wow, this young woman, she's got it together, But the truth was, I was an absolute wreck. I was working day and night. I had no life. I knew how to bring on clients, but I really didn't know how to delegate. I didn't know how to run a company. I didn't know how to put systems together. And so the business was running me. And I was so afraid of letting it go for many reasons. And, financially was a big one at the time as well. And so from the stress of it all, I ended up having a terrible car accident. And what happened was I actually ran over myself with my car. And so I know that's kind of a odd one, but it's true. And people have had that happen and not survive. And so it was a car that was rolling down the driveway when I was picking up my daughter from daycare, and I jumped in trying to stop it because I wasn't paying attention because my head was on too many things. Yeah. And it just pulled me under the car and out into the street. And so it was such a miracle, honestly, that I survived that. And in that moment that I knew that I still had my legs and all that, I was like, I'm done. There's a 4,000-pound car just rolled over me. If that's not a wake-up call, I don't know what is. And so I walked away from the business. I walked away from a marriage that was a difficult marriage. And, that was my pivot. I took a year off completely and really examined my life and what was important to me, what I was passionate about, what worked in the business, what didn't work in the business, and just regrouped. So there's lots I can share about that time, but it was a gift, really. And I hit the wall, and that was my breakthrough. And then I went on and built many companies from there that I've had a blast with, but approaching in a very different way.
What was important to you? As you said, you examined yourself pretty fully at that moment. You had the time, fortunately, to do that. So what did you learn was important to you?
That's such an interesting question, because it kind of takes us back to what we were talking about earlier, was relationships. And what I found with advertising, which I was really good at it, and I had the creativity and I had the ideas, but what I felt back then was I was as good as my last marketing campaign.
Right.
And I didn't feel like I was getting these deep relationships. I mean, I had great clients and, we really liked each other and all of that. But, it was just, if the television station didn't show up to the event, it was like, there was just so many things that I felt that I wasn't able to get on that deeper level with people. It was really about the money. And I thought, at that time in my life, I want to make a lot of money. And I thought that was really the driver. And I still feel like making money is very important, but for different reasons now. And I got really aligned with what was important to me on a deeper level. And that was just really helping people and making a difference in their lives. And so
the money phase is an interesting one. Just having moved out of a very much a financially motivating and motivated profession, which was the practice of law. I did that for 18 years. And it was definitely a money phase and with good reason. I mean, Randy and I have 4 kids and cars and houses and all kinds of things that were important, at least from my perspective then. It was important to take care of all that responsibility and life, business. I mean, life is expensive. But today, even the most modest life, I think, is a lot more expensive than the median salary that people are paid. It's absolutely astonishing. I cannot, for the most part, cannot really understand anybody going the job route anymore. And there's an opportunity further down the road when you're working in a good company and all that. But there just seems to be more limitations now than ever before. And with more than 1 billion people working virtually and creating their own economies, I still see that as the future for so many. But in any event, it's, what you said is really telling. You were in a stage where money was quite important for probably the same reasons it was important to me. Yeah. And there are things that you sort of trade off at those times, it seems, for money. So it sounds like one of the things you traded was more the fulfillment of the work. I know for me, that was it. I woke up every day, and by everybody else's definition, I was successful, yet I was miserable. And I could only look back and explain that as I was unfulfilled. And so success without fulfillment felt like failure to me. And so I couldn't continue to do something I felt I was failing at day after day and not think somehow it was going to land or end up wrong. And, with a heart thing or a cancer thing or this thing or that thing, I just was sort of seeing that down the road. So this was, I don't think any accident that your accident happened, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and boy, someone was watching over me, because I even had tire tracks on my legs for a year. And so it was a pretty crazy time. And, the thing is, like, of course, I had to make money. I had a child to take care of and family. So it's just, the difference is I made money in all the companies that I've run since, and I've got an incredible team, and I want them to make money and do well, and all of our clients to do well, and so forth. But that's not the driver. So that the money should be the result, because you're doing something you believe in so deeply that propels you forward, right? Because the money doesn't have a passion tied to it, you're going to end up burning out. And that's what was happening to me. And I also, again, I didn't know how to delegate. I really wasn't structuring my life right.
Yeah. Burnout's an interesting topic, because I'm still sort of a recovering workaholic, and maybe a little bit about what that's like, but I don't ever feel burned out anymore. And there's a difference between being really committed or passionate about a business or a job even, and working pretty tirelessly at it. And in one case, you end up with burnout. In another case, you end up just being more and more able, energized to go forward. You're so agile. You're so flexible. You're so resilient is the word that I would use. So I would love to know what you think is the importance of that. What is the importance of resilience to you, and how would you define it?
Oh, I think it's at the top for sure. Resilience, there's emotional resilience and there's physical resilience. So for me, I keep up a pretty, um, hate to use the word busy, but let's say productive pace.
Yes, busy is a dirty word around here too. So
I
it's active, dynamic, you know,
know, I had
but
to
not busy.
for a second.
That's so funny.
Or I don't want to use hectic, but it's busy. And I have a big event coming up. I've got a book coming out called Scale or Fail, and a lot of this is in there. But the resilience piece for me, is the self-care is just crucial. And, to be able to feel healthy, feel strong, feel inspired, feel motivated. And then the emotional resilience piece. I mean, gosh, you have stuff coming at you all the time. And as your business grows, you're putting yourself out there more, you're going to be vulnerable, and you have to be able to allow things to just bounce off of you. If an account didn't work out, or an employee left, or technology's not working. I mean, if I am reacting and getting bounced around by every little thing that happens, then I am completely dependent on my outside circumstances, and that just takes practice and knowing that you're not going to die from it. But I'm a big believer in getting right back up again and, going after it again until you get it right. So
we didn't discuss this. So this, I think our community will appreciate this. We did not discuss this before we turned on the microphone or in any communications leading up to our interview. And I will say we are simpatico. This is another one of these wonderful serendipities of life. We've got a book that's coming out next year called Embrace, The Path to Resilience in Business and Life. And it's talking about exactly what you're discussing, that resilience isn't just physical. People think that resilience means endurance. I used to think that. When I was a lawyer, that was it, man. I was more tenacious. I would sleep in the office. I'd work harder and longer and miss my kids' things on Saturday if I had to, whatever it was, to just get the job done. But that led to this burnout. That led to this eroding of feeling. And when our feeling self, our emotional self, is frayed or is somehow disappearing, even, so that we're more numb, comfortably or uncomfortably numb to the world around us, we are a time bomb.
Yeah,
it's kind of ticking, whether we only hurt ourselves or we hurt other people around us. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on resilience. I'd love to find out whether you have a process that you would maybe just deconstruct for us at the moment around pivoting. And by pivoting, obviously this is the concept of change, but not managing so much change, although management's a part of it. It's the alchemy of it. It's the utilization, because so many times people are dealing with change and it's creating stress. And part of that stress is their resistance to it. Part of the stress is their fear of it. And yet it's the one great constant in the universe that's all about us. So if we're getting ticked off or triggered by change or the prospect of change, man, we're just ticking time bombs.
Yeah, we are. And we're like a ping pong ball, sort of bouncing all over. Oh, okay.
Funny, right?
I'm actually a pretty wicked ping pong player, I'll have to say.
Are you kidding me? Oh, well, we're going to have you come over here and we'll duke it out on the table. You were in our house maybe 2 years ago. We were launching another book called Soul Over Matter, and there was a gentleman that was here doing a calligraphy demonstration and a couple of things. So funny enough, we didn't play ping pong that night.
We didn't. I missed that.
Oh my goodness. So what would you say is that deconstruction of a process, a pivot process for you?
Yeah, I think that, it's changed over the years, I would say, as I've, wisdom and life experience sets in and you've been through a lot of things. You have more confidence that it's going to be okay. And I think the interesting thing is and I'm sure you've experienced this too, some of my biggest, like, oh my God moments, like, what are we going to do now, end up being the biggest blessings. I really have gotten good at following my intuition.
Yes.
And just getting quiet and listening to that inner voice. Because if you're constantly asking other people, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I make this life move? And I do work with my coach, and I talk about things, and we brainstorm together. And then, I really listen internally, and I do what feels right. I think a lot of people make decisions out of fear instead of true choice. And that's the key in a pivot, is that you're making the choice that is what your heart calls you to do, what your soul calls you to do, not what you think others think you should do or what you're afraid will happen. Because if you do that, it's going to bite you in the butt later.
So true. People can do for you. They can do for you, but they can't feel for you. So the feeling, the reliance on doing, or like you said earlier, reliance on outer circumstances to change things so you'll feel differently inside. I mean, what else is life except a collection of our feeling experiences? When we get to the end of it, we take nothing with us. So I don't care if you live in a 20,000 square foot house or 50,000 square foot. It doesn't matter. Or a 500 square foot thing. You take none of it with you anyhow. Mm-hmm. But you will take with you, and you will be with yourself then, and the feeling of what your life was like. And that won't be a doing. It'll be a felt perception, and no one can guide you there. Yeah. So like you said, so often we listen to other people or ask people, and it's good to ask people their opinions. So let's get, just so we're clear about that. It's not like we're saying don't ask people for their thoughts. I mean, that's what you ask a coach sometimes, to just tell me what I'm not seeing. What am I missing? That kind of thing. But ultimately, to make those decisions is the key to the whole thing. And to create that quiet to be able to make a decision that's really from, like you said, your soul or your heart. That's a mature way to live life that I certainly wasn't living in that way when I was in my 30s even. So
well, I didn't always do that either, right? You can be impulsive and reactive, but there's that cause and effect thing, that law,
that thing.
Yeah. So then you kind of go, well, wait a minute here. Maybe I need to think about this or approach it differently. Yeah. So, I also think too that sometimes we're tempted to make change when we don't really need to make change, because,
say more about that.
Well, we can get impatient, and, we want to move on to the next, especially business owners, entrepreneurs. It's that shiny object syndrome. Mm-hmm. And so, we work with our clients to help them stay the course. Let's dive deeper in this. Let's tweak this a little bit. Let's look for other solutions or other opportunities that are aligned with what you're already doing, because you may throw out the baby with the bathwater when you were 2 feet from gold, right? And so there's a lot of just precious jewels if you can just stay with it longer. And I think that takes discipline and, and like I was saying, patience.
So as we wrap up, I want to dive into one thing that I think is really a great dovetail to what you were saying earlier about self-care. Okay. So our theory about resilience is, or at least my experience more than a theory, that we have to be able to be self-aware, present with what's going on in our lives. And that sort of self-awareness and self-honesty is a key thing, because otherwise, again, we can surround ourselves with like the emperor's new clothes, where you don't even realize things that other people can clearly see, but somehow you're in a whole different space about reality. So that self-awareness, and being able to look at things for the creative opportunity they present. That's sort of the first step. The second step is what's the wisdom that you have learned? What do you mine? Are you mining for that wisdom regularly in the areas that you would otherwise think, you'd like to avoid? If I can get away from this person or this situation or this mistake that I've made and never think about it again, it wouldn't be too soon. So to look in that wood pile or in that crap pile for wisdom is not intuitive necessarily. And the third piece is self-care. And I believe that rituals are a big part of self-care. So do you have rituals that assist you in taking the care for yourself that A, that you deserve, and B, that creates more resilience for you as a business owner?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a big believer in having fun. And I think you need to do things that are completely, like I can be a workaholic too. I love my business, but you can become very boring and narrow-minded if that is all you're doing. And I've been a trapeze artist for 20 years.
Wow.
And so I have been training with the same trapeze coach. There's a theme here.
Yes.
For about that amount of time. And this last fall, I actually fulfilled a dream of mine by building a trapeze in my backyard. So I used to drive 3 hours now.
So your neighbors now know that they have that Allison is swinging from the trees again.
Yeah, I know.
That's great.
Yeah, so I'm up there all the time, and you have to be focused, and you're in the moment. You're facing your fears. You're challenging yourself. There's a lot of teamwork that goes on. There's a lot of camaraderie, and that's my fountain of youth. I think is the trapeze. I try to get up there as much as I can. Other things. There's I love to sleep in. I am not. I know in all the books you read, it's like get up at 4 a.m, and it just isn't happening for me. I've come to terms. I'm a night owl, so I'm most creative at night. So I like to sleep in. If I could sleep in till 8 or 8:30, I'm in absolute heaven.
Yeah.
So that's important to me is sleep. I like to take baths regularly, just relaxing. And then the last thing is homeopathic medicine. I've been, that was one of my businesses for a very long time, was a homeopathic physician. And so I'm a big believer in that. And just, taking care of the whole person, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. Yes.
Absolutely. Different.
There you have it.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking to myself that's we are holistic beings. And so when even thinking about resilience, it's these 4 areas. So many people think that if they just create physical resilience, even the resilience that comes from earning a lot of money or keeping, being able to amass a lot of money, that somehow it'll work out. And as a lawyer, and not just as a lawyer, I've found that a lot of people who have a lot of money aren't necessarily happy or healthy or have great relationships. So it's just one area, in that equation that you just laid out. It's one quadrant of a bigger pie. So, Allison, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Yeah, I love this conversation. This is great. I love talking about things and these things, and you're helping so many people. Because there are a lot of people out there that are ready to make a pivot or in the middle of a pivot, and they need to know that, they're exactly where they're supposed to be.
Embrace. Exactly. It's perfect. I want to say that there'll be full show notes, and you mentioned earlier about your book, Scale or Fail, which is available right now on Amazon. So anybody that would love to go and find out more about Allison and that book, Scale or Fail, you can go to Amazon.com. But there'll also be some pretty cool things that are happening I would say early October leading up to the launch, which is October 16th, which is really exciting. So, of course, we'll update, and people will get to find out more about you and about the book and about how they can support and, of course, learn more about you and the programs you deliver, et cetera. So I also want to remind everybody that is listening and watching that your feedback is so important to us. So, of course, please leave a review on iTunes. Feel free to leave a comment, adammarkel.com/podcast, and you can leave a comment, check out further shows that we've got. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please feel free to do that. And you can also join our Facebook community at pivotfb.com, which is our beautiful Start My Pivot community. So, as you said, everybody that's out there pivoting in some way, pivoting out of something, pivoting into something, it just seems that there's a huge community of all of us who are doing that, reinventing some area of our personal or business lives all the time. And lastly, of course, I think it's so important that we experience gratitude as often as possible. I remember being in Japan and speaking. We were doing an event with Tony Robbins, and I was first up to speak and had a beautiful 90 minutes with this beautiful group of people, large audience of folks. And afterward, I got introduced to this gentleman who's sort of known as the Warren Buffett of Japan. So he's very, very successful business owner, billionaire, and all that kind of thing. And through translation, I was told that this gentleman says thank you 1,000 times a day. And I remember sharing that information with some of my students a little later when I got back to the US. And some guy who was being sort of funny, but also serious at the same time said, of course, he says thank you 1,000 times a day. He's a billionaire. And I said, well, that's great. That makes sense. Do you think that he says thank you 1,000 times a day because he's a billionaire, or is he a billionaire potentially because he says thank you 1,000 times a day? I'll leave it to everybody to make up their own mind about that. But today, I want to remind us all how grateful we can be in this moment because we are alive. And my prayer, my hope, my wish is that everybody wakes up again tomorrow. So you got to wake up today. That's really good news. Even if what you woke up to might be a challenging day. It might be that things are going great for you today. It could be, somebody triggered you or ticked you off, or you got some email that's upset you or whatever. We all have that stuff. But you woke up. So my hope is that you all get to wake up again tomorrow. My prayer is that we, Allison, you and I and our families get to wake up tomorrow. And in that waking moment, in that breath, that first breath, that we're aware that we are getting another day, receiving another day, that we realize there are people taking their last breath in that moment. And so it is sacred, it's special, and we can be grateful right then and there. And if you're so interested, as I have been for more than 10 years, in declaring something out loud at the moment that you are more conscious and awake, you can say these words: I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. It's been a pleasure. Everybody have a beautiful rest of your day. And again, Allison, what a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you now have the tools and greater insights to navigate your own pivot. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at adammarkel.com/podcasts. For more tips, strategies, and support as you consciously pivot into a new business and lifestyle you love, join our Pivot community on Facebook at pivotfb.com.